Good afternoon. My name is Mark Codo, and welcome to a spooky episode of Codo's Cinema. And today I am going to count down my top 10 favorite horror movies. And just to be clear, this is basically horror movies. So basically, you may hear some horror movies from the classics, or you may hear horror movies whether they're from animation, musical, or any type of genre. And also, I'm not much of a horror movie kind of guy, so yeah, I know. A lot of people are probably going to say, why are you doing a top 10 horror movies list on a podcast? Well, I've seen movies where they actually took the horror movie genre in a different direction, and that is why I'm doing top 10 favorite horror movies. So, yes, okay. And they do take the horror movie genre in a different take, like I said, alright? Okay, so anyway, I am about to go into my list right now. Number 10, Venom. Okay, I know a lot of people are gonna question me on this one. Why is Venom at the start of my list? Well, anyway, by the way, spoiler alert for the movies on this list. Okay, so basically, yes, Venom, it may not be much of a horror movie as it was depicted in the Venom movie that we saw last year, but it did added the horror elements to it. Basically, the bonding moments where the symbiotes bond to their it's just basically the bonding moments of the symbiotes bonding to the human elements. So that's why it is adding in some horror elements to it. Okay, so anyway, now this wasn't the only superhero movie that has ever gone into a more thrilling and horror direction. With 1998's Blade, Ghost Rider, Hellboy, among other few superhero movies, to name a few, including the upcoming Morbius movie in 2020. However, this is one of the first few superhero movies. No, actually, not first few. This is one of the few superhero movies where Venom tried to go into a much more darker and much thrilling direction. And while yes, this could have been an R rating, but they still had a PG-13 rating to it. But it still added a few horror elements to it. Now, what I like about the Venom movie is Tom Hardy's performance as Eddie Brock, aka Venom. Now, he was actually pretty good, and the dynamic duel and chemistry between the two was excellent. Now, yes, there were problems with this movie. Now, first of all, let me point out something. The Venom movie wasn't the only film to have Eddie Brock and Venom in it. I'm pretty sure anybody remembers Spider-Man 3, where they introduced Venom at the end of Spider-Man 3, although, yes, we all know where that went, but the birth of Venom on Eddie Brock during the church sequence in Spider-Man 3 was probably one of the fewer highlights of Spider-Man 3. We've all seen Spider-Man 3. So anyway, I do like Venom. I wish there was more horror elements, but there was enough horror elements in the Venom movie, so it was actually pretty good. Although the visuals were great, performances were great. I mean, yes, like I said, the movie could have been a little bit much better, but it was actually a pretty decent film, and I believe, and actually the fans actually love this movie, despite the flaws it has. And whether or not the Venom sequel will be PG-13 or R rating, but whatever the case is, we can't wait to see Woody Harrelson as Carnage in the upcoming Venom sequel, with more horror, humor, and carnage in the Venom sequel. Alright, moving forward. Number 9, Hocus Pocus. Now, I mentioned Hocus Pocus last week on my top 10 favorite live action Disney movies. This list right now is basically horror movies. So, yes, Hocus Pocus is included on this list. So, anyway, like I said, as I mentioned last week, Disney is never shy of doing horror movies. And while it may not be a financial or critical success for Hocus Pocus, it did gain a huge cult following thanks to the airings of Hocus Pocus being aired on Disney Channel and ABC Family, which is now being changed to Freeform in October. Now, I love the performances and memorable characters and quotes. Of course, the quotes and one-liners were so great in that movie and memorable. Yes, that's basically why everybody loves Hocus Pocus. Now, it still added the horror elements to it, basically because it's a Halloween movie, which makes sense. Because it all takes place on Halloween night where the Sanderson sisters, played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, who come back from the dead thanks to Max's way of lighting the black flame candle. Yes, we all know the story. Yes, we all know the story. I like the performances. The characters were great, and yes. Yes, that's why Hocus Pocus became famous in pop culture because of the memorable quotes and performances. And also, fun fact: did you guys know that James Horner wrote the "Come My Little Children" song for the Hocus Pocus movie? Well, no. Well, that's actually a big surprise because James Horner was originally gonna compose the score, but for some reason he left. But he did come back to write the song "Come My Little Children," which was sung by Sarah Jessica Parker in the movie, but the musical score that was composed in Hocus Pocus was by John Debney, which I think he did an amazing job writing the score, and James Horner writing the song for the movie, which I thought that was pretty good. All right, moving forward, number 8, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Same year as Hocus Pocus, when Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas came out. Now, when it comes to horror movies with scary and gothic themes, you can look no further than Tim Burton. Now, this wasn't the first Tim Burton movie where he went into a more horror direction. In 1998, he made Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton. He also went on to direct the 2 Batman movies, and collaborating with Johnny Depp on Edward Scissorhands back in 1990. But Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas is considered to be one of his greatest movies of all time, and this is actually one of his first stop-motion animated movies ever. Now, while he wasn't the director, he did serve as producer with Henry Selick directing. And from the opening song, you can tell that this is gonna be haunting, thrilling, and exciting at the same time. The music was composed by Danny Elfman, who also did the singing voices for Jack Skellington. Yes, Jack Skellington's singing voice was being played by composer Danny Elfman, who collaborated with Tim Burton on most of his films. Now, the visuals were spectacular for a stop-motion animated film, and The Nightmare Before Christmas still holds up to this day as one of the greatest movies of all time. Now, like I said, the visual effects were great, the performances were good, and to this day, many people argue if this movie is a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie. You decide. Well, I say it's both, because The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie at the same time. Get it? Because it tackles both holiday themes, which is actually pretty good for a stop motion animated movie. Yep, that's actually pretty good. Yep. All right, moving forward. Number 7, Hotel Transylvania. Hey, another animated movie. And even in animation, the horror genre kicks in. Now, Hotel Transylvania came out in 2012. This movie was actually in development since 2006, going back and forth between directors, but it wasn't until Genndy Tartakovsky who stepped in to direct. Now, for those of you who don't know, Genndy Tartakovsky, it was the creator of Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and the 2D animation of Star Wars Clone Wars. And this movie, Hotel Transylvania, stars Adam Sandler as Count Dracula, while also bringing in a few of his Saturday Night Live cast members, including his longtime friend Kevin James and David Spade. Now, the animation and visual effects were good, with Gendy's signature style, to which he brought to Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack, and among other animated TV shows. But what I actually like about this movie is basically the animation itself. Although I do like how they poke fun of the classic horror movies, particularly the characters, because it's a animated comedy movie, which is actually pretty funny. Hey, who doesn't love horror and comedy? Who doesn't love horror and comedy? Huh? Right? Yeah. Okay. Now the story itself, it was okay. I mean, not the best story, but hey, it's actually pretty decent. It's actually a pretty good film. Now, I like the performances, the voice cast performance of Adam Sandler, Kevin James, David Spade, CeeLo Green, which he is now being replaced by Keegan Michael Key in the sequels, Selena Gomez, among many other cast members, including Andy Samberg. Now, I really enjoyed Hotel Transylvania. So it's about Count Dracula opening a hotel for monsters to be safe from the human world, which is basically the point of this movie. Now, there has been sequels already. There's the recent Hotel Transylvania movie came out last year, Hotel Transylvania 3, which was on a boat. There was another sequel that came out in 2015, which is basically about Dracula's grandson. And now there is an upcoming fourth one that is coming out in 2021. Oh boy, can't wait to see what Hotel Transylvania 4 will look like sometime in 2021. Alright, moving forward. Number 6, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Based on a 1979 musical of the same name, it tells the story of a barber named Benjamin Barker, aka Sweeney Todd, who was falsely convicted and arrested by Judge Turpin, to which Turpin took his wife and daughter, Lucy and Joanna. And throughout the movie, Mrs. Lovett, the meat pie store owner who, and I quote, makes the worst pies in London, told Todd that Lucy was murdered by Turpin. And now Sweeney Todd vows for revenge by opening up his barber store and goes on a killing spree for revenge. Now, actually, yes. That's basically the point of this movie, because this is basically a revenge movie musical. Now, this is actually one of the few horror musicals on this list. Now, this wasn't the first time that the horror movie genre took a different direction in terms of musical. The Rocky Horror Picture movie did that too, but this is actually but Sweeney Todd is one of the few horror movies that I thought would be a good movie musical. Now, I actually saw this movie back in high school. I really do enjoy the movie. Johnny Depp did an amazing job as Sweeney Todd. Now, I understand that some people said that his singing chops weren't that good, but at the same time, it fits the character perfectly, because Sweeney Todd is basically going on a revenge killing spree because Judge Turpin, played by Alan Rickman, thought that killed his wife Lucy, which is actually surprising, because at the end of the movie, Sweeney Todd actually kills his wife at the end of the movie, because he didn't even know, because his wife was disguised as as one of those beggars at some points, but it was actually surprising. I didn't even see that moment at first, but that was actually surprising. Now, this is one of Tim Burton's earlier films. This is actually one of Tim Burton's first ever R-rated movies because it actually included a lot of bloody and gore moments. Now, there were many songs were actually taken out, especially Sweeney Todd's ballad, the Ballad of Sweeney Todd song, but it actually did had an instrumental theme in the opening of this film, which is actually surprising. And this is actually one of the first few films where Danny Elfman did not score this film, because Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is a musical, which makes sense. All right, so right now I'm gonna move forward right now. Number 5, Ghostbusters. Who are you gonna call for number 5? Ghostbusters. That is right. Ghostbusters hits the number 5 spot on my list. Now in the 80s, the 1980s was an excellent time for horror movies, with notable movies such as Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. But actually, it was Ghostbusters that blew me away, thanks to his outstanding visual effects, cast performance, which includes Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, who played the 4 Ghostbusters to stop the supernatural beings who are disturbing and corrupting the city. Now, I actually enjoy this movie so often. The theme song is so catchy. I really enjoy the Ghostbusters theme song, and I do enjoy the sequel. And the reboot was alright, but I'm actually excited for the third Ghostbusters movie that is gonna come out pretty soon, sometime in 2020. Now, this is basically Ghostbusters is a horror comedy movie, which makes sense because, hey, when you have cast members like Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd, then you're in for a very good laugh anyway. All right. It's actually Ghostbusters is actually a pretty good movie. All right, moving forward. Number 4, Zombieland. Zombieland is actually one of the first few R-rated movies that I actually ever saw. Now, Zombieland is a very scary but funny movie to watch. Now, Zombieland is basically a movie about the zombie apocalypse. Now, it deals with four people who are fighting off against zombies. Basically, their names are Columbus, Tallahassee, Wichita, and Little Rock, being played by Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. And the names, I can understand why they chose those names for the names of the characters, because they're basically based off the states that they live in, which actually makes sense. And I actually do enjoy the writing in this movie. Now, actually, fun fact, this is actually one of my first few R-rated movies that I have ever seen in my entire life. No joke, I'm not messing around. This is actually one of my first few R-rated movies I have ever saw. Now, I do enjoy the movie, and Ruben Fleischer, who later directed Venom, did an amazing job directing Zombieland. And there are so many great moments, including the Bill Murray cameo in this movie. And the final battle at the fair was actually amazing, especially Tallahassee's stand against the zombies, where he was amazing in that movie. Woody Harrelson as Tallahassee was amazing in Zombieland. And with the sequel that came out just about a week ago, there's more horror, gore, and funniest moments in the Zombieland sequel that I can't wait to see. And hopefully it continues on. All right, let's go. Let's go to number 3. Number 3, Jaws. We're going to need a bigger boat, people, because Steven Spielberg just created one of the greatest movies of all time. And yes, it may be a summer blockbuster, but it's also a horror movie too because it deals with a shark. Deals with a shark who is basically attacking people at the beach who are swimming in the water. And to be fair, in the movie Jaws, it's not safe to go in the water because Jaws is coming. Dun 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 dun. Yep, I actually enjoy the original Jaws movie because of the way of how it's set up. We don't even get to see the shark until the very end of the movie, which I really do like, especially the now famous quote, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." Fun fact, that line itself was actually improvised by Roy Scheider, who played Martin Brody, the police chief. That was actually a pretty good improvisation. Now the shark was actually a mechanic shark. Now it wasn't. Now fun fact, that mechanic shark wasn't able to work. They weren't able to have. They had no other choice but to have the shark appear towards the end of the movie while they have the shark come up as a sneak attack. Although we do get to see his fins and part of his face throughout the movie too. And John Williams' musical score of the Jaws theme is excellent. Literally great. Oh man, hey, like I said, it may be a summer blockbuster, but it's never shy. But summer blockbusters are never shy away to putting in some horror elements to it. And Jaws from 1975 is a great example. All right, moving on. Number 2, Psycho. The master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock, makes the number 2 spot on my top 10 favorite horror movies. Now, yes, a lot of people are probably going to say, why is Psycho not my number 1 choice? Well, here's the thing. There's been a lot of competition for horror movies, and that is why Psycho is my number 2. Now, Psycho is considered to be cinema's greatest movies of all time, and as well as being one of the greatest horror movies ever. Now, what makes this movie memorable is the famous shower scene where Janet Leigh's character gets killed by Norman Bates. Yep, spoiler alert, everybody knows that scene very well. The shower scene is considered to be one of the most memorable moments of the entire movie from Psycho. Now, Alfred Hitchcock does an amazing job with this movie because he is the master of suspense. And the music score was great too. The settings, and the the black and white color was a good touch to it as well. This is exactly why I enjoy classic horror movies. Now, this is one of the few classic horror movies I really enjoy, which is saying something because Alfred Hitchcock is known as the master of suspense, and he did an amazing job bringing this movie to life. Alright, now I am going to my number 1 choice. Number 1, The Shining. Here's the top spot, everybody! Because taking the top spot is The Shining. Because The Shining is considered to be the scariest horror movie of all time. While Psycho would have been my number 1 choice, but The Shining takes the spot because of the great performances by Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, the horror moments, particularly oh man, there's so many crazy horror moments in that movie. I can't tell which one to choose. But anyway, it would be the ending. I thought the story was good, despite the fact that this is one of the few movies that Stephen King does not like. Yeah, I know. This is one of the few movies Stephen King does not like because The Shining is based off of Stephen King's book of the same name. And by the way, I thought the cinematography was great as well. And this was actually directed by Stanley Kubrick, who I thought did an amazing job with this movie. Oh man, The Shining is great, especially the moments where Jack Nicholson's character makes an improvised moment at the end of the movie where he says, "Here's Johnny." That's actually one of the few great moments I actually liked in that movie. Especially, the twins. The twins were actually pretty scary in that movie, especially the elevator full of blood. And man, so many horror elements in this movie that was so scary, memorable, but you gotta admit, The Shining is considered to be one of the greatest horror movies of all time in 1980. And it has gained a huge reputation in pop culture, referencing in other TV shows and movies, which is literally great. And there you have it, folks. That is my top 10 favorite horror movies. What do you guys think? You think I'm missing a few horror movies? Let me know. And by the way, this is your host, Mark Codo. I want you all to have a great Monday afternoon. Have a great week. Happy Halloween. And I hope everybody's homecoming was okay, despite the fact that it rained last week. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in to Codo's Cinema. Have a happy Halloween and good night. Until next week. See ya.